Okay, commence on, Madame la Secrétaire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll now hear the consumer panel from Ontario.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Kari, Vierimaa. I was born in Timmins, raised in Sudbury, and I'm currently a second-year political science and geography student at the University of Toronto. I'm here today as a consumer of small market television and as a future broadcast journalist. Cette année, 2 stations locaux.
This year, 2 local stations were closed and a third canceled its local programming. Citizens of Brigham Women and another city lost their voices. The model for local stations is broken. How many stations will have to close before the CRTC takes measures to protect these stations?
Television is not merely at a crossroads. We are approaching a point of no return, where inaction will seal the fate of many stations, like my local station in Northern Ontario, which is CTV. While the BDUs suggest that local television is not in dire straits, and it's the networks who are mismanaging local stations, there's little evidence to support this. Long before CanWest bought Alliance Atlantis, and long before CTV bought Chum, networks began to centralize local television broadcasts, cut local programming, or even close local stations because they were not cost effective. Ultimately, the CRTC chose inaction over tackling such issues head-on. In 2000, Robert Rabinovich, the then newly president of CBC Radio-Canada, slashed and essentially destroyed quality local coverage in every CBC market in this country. His cuts left a meager 30 minutes of local news on weekdays, and in conjunction with more cuts in 2008, left many CBC regional newsrooms decimated. But why cut local? Simply put, local television is no longer profitable. Less than a year later, in 2001, massive clawbacks at then CTV Incorporated resulted in the elimination of locally produced news in Northern Ontario, replacing it with a regional newscast based in Sudbury. Then CTV CEO Trina McQueen said that it was due to, quote, overstaffing. Local news coverage in all areas, including Sudbury, was slashed to mere minutes per newscast. Regional news is not local news, but the reality is it's the only feasible way to produce quality programming in markets like Northern Ontario. Mr. Chair, I can tell you firsthand that even though local news was cancelled in the North nearly a decade ago, the people of North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, and Timmins still wish that they had Dennis Chippa, Luann Young, or Karina Warrena sitting at the local station across town, bringing them the news from their neighborhood and city into their homes every night. The viewers didn't think that their stations were overstaffed. They considered such staff to be their local voice. At the end of the day, local television brings people together, whether through local news by sharing the stories of our communities or by bringing such communities together for a cause. Local television is both the cornerstone of conventional broadcasting and a cornerstone of our communities. Private conventional broadcasters are under no obligation to keep unprofitable stations open, and their losses have mounted to a point where if something is not done, there will be no CTV Northern Ontario. The current local coverage will be axed in favor of centralized news in more profitable markets, and that, Mr. Chair, is not local television. Local news is supposed to be relevant to our lives in the communities we live in. The recession of last year has shown us that government intervention is occasionally required to ensure future market stability. Ladies and gentlemen, intervention in the market of local television is required to ensure the future of conventional broadcasting and small and medium-sized markets.
I'm sorry, I apologize for the interruption.
Sorry.
It's just you're going a little bit too fast for the interpreters.
No worries.
Can you please slow down? Thank you.
It's a matter of public record. CTV Globe Media has indicated that if the model isn't fixed, 10 of 11 local stations in Ontario could close. Every station but Toronto. This would mean the elimination of local coverage in Sudbury, Timmins, Sault Ste. Marie, North Bay, Muskoka, Barrie, London, and Kitchener-Waterloo, as well as hundreds of other communities across this province, while Ottawa and Windsor would be left with only the CBC as the sole broadcaster in those communities. Rogers argues that City TV does not need a so-called bailout from the CRTC or from the cable subscriber, but outside of Toronto, City TV has no local news aside from breakfast television and a single news magazine in Calgary and Edmonton. No lunch, no evening, no late night, and no weekend newscasts. Les distributeurs de câble et
Cable distributor and satellite distributors say that either community stations can take their place. This is not true. Rogers announced that it produces 15,000 hours of local content while CTV Global produces 900 hours. But it's not the quantity that matters, it's the quality. Local TV stations can express the voices of local communities in a way no newspaper or radio station can do, in order to get information during crises like the floods in Kashechewan or the kidnapping of a baby in a hospital. Local TV is extremely important to project visually the information to our communities, and that's why they exist. That's why they're important to us.
CRTC to step up and protect citizens across this country by recommending compensation for their local signals, to protect local television for the years and decades to come. Compensation should and must be directed towards local and Canadian programming. To protect the consumer, the CRTC must ensure that any compensation paid to local television is not passed on to the consumers by the BDUs. With something as precious as local television, all too often, you don't realize how important it is until it's gone. In Northern Ontario, we have already seen that reduction. Local television is the cornerstone of conventional broadcasting and the communities we live in. In conclusion, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission, please take into consideration that your decision will directly impact everyone, not only in the immediate future, but in the years and decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you.